Just got it, and new doors are open, time to go now.
Are we ready?
Closed. They had it on.
My microphone is on.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City of West Sacramento regular meeting of the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission, Monday, September 30th, 2019. It is 6:02 p.m. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Sam, can we ask you to lead us in the pledge, please?
If I can remember the
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Sam. Roll call.
Chair Jordan,
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chair McMichael.
Here.
Commissioner Domke. Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Clower.
Here.
Commissioner Schatzel.
Here.
Commissioner Voiches. And alternate member Olson. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the Commission. The Commission is prohibited by law from discussing issues not on the agenda brought to them at this time. Commissioner communications. Should I save that to the end, or no? Commissioners have communications? No?
Just travels, that's all.
Just travels?
Yeah, I mean, you want to know about where the travel is?
Commissioner McMichael? Vice Chairman, no?
No, I do want to say something, if
Okay.
I may. I did go to Chalk It Up. I did attend Chalk It Up. And I mention that because I saw Christy, who's in charge. It was a great event. I'd never been there before. Heard about it. But this time I went only because I knew you were there. And I'm glad I went, and it was terrific.
Thank you. It was amazing. We had a lot of West Sacramento over on the other side of the river for Chalk It Up. Artists, musicians, volunteers, vendors. It was great. Thank you. An artist out in the crowd tonight. Thanks, Don. Okay, moving on to presentations. Presentation on Arts in the Heart event on October 12th, 2019. Sam Brinkhouse.
Okay. Well, good evening, Commissioners. It's nice to see everyone. For those in attendance, my name is Sam Brinkheis, Recreation Supervisor with the City of West Sacramento. I manage the theater, the arts, and the special events. I'm here this evening alongside Kara Comiskey, who is our Gallery 1075 Arts Curator and Graphic Designer. And we are both here this evening to share with you an upcoming special event at the Community Center scheduled for October 12th, titled Arts in the Heart. Arts in the Heart is a celebration of arts and diversity in the heart of West Sacramento, and is a multicultural event showcasing some of the area's talented performers, musicians, and artists. We will have a multicultural art show. We will have dance performances in the Black Box Theater as well as outside on the sidewalk. We'll have River City High School Jazz Band, Syncopated Sea Monkeys, and musical orchestra. There will be vendors, merchants. We will have the Police Canine out doing an exhibition. We'll have a bounce house and much more. And so we're really excited about the event. This is our second annual Arts in the Heart celebration. And at this time, we would like to invite the commissioners to come out and actually judge one of the arts activities. This is a Calavera painting contest. And last year, we had Julie out, and as well as Mayor Christopher Cabaldon, some of the city council members as well, were out to juror the event. It was a great time, and we would like to extend an invitation to all of you. At this point, I'd like to turn the microphone to Kara, who's going to share with you a little bit about our multicultural art show.
Thank you, Sam. Hello. So a large part of Arts in the Heart is also our multicultural art show taking place in Gallery 1075, right across the street in the West Sacramento Community Center. So our multicultural art show, this year we are fortunate enough to have 18 participating artists, 8 of which are West Sacramento residents. So our number for our group shows of West Sac residents is climbing. Usually we have maybe a quarter, so we're climbing towards almost half. So we're really excited about that increased participation. And the works themselves range in a matter of subject matters ranging from celebratory or homage towards their own heritage or other cultures, as well as tackling cultural issues as well too. We'll have about 38 pieces right now is what I have in Sam's office, making it much more colorful than usual. And it's a really fantastic show. We're going to try and get a lot more traffic through the gallery this year so people can appreciate it. We also have, for the artists that are more inclined towards writing about their work, they also have the option of reading artist statements and artist bios in an exhibition binder. So if the public's curious about a piece, they can also read a little bit more to find out a little more information behind the motivation for that work. Yeah, and I'm really excited to put it together again. This year, like last year, we did a public call to art, and how we reached out to our community is it was through publicized on the California Council for the Arts allows public art calls on their website. We actually had a participant from Germany contact us, but they weren't very good at attaching files, so that did not work out. We also got a great feature in the West Sacramento newsletter, and we publicized it on the city and community center Facebook page. Also, Movie Armstrong, our city mascots page, and also, of course, on the city website as a daily calendar event too. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sam.
Yeah, so what we have for you is just a short video clip of our Arts in the Heart celebration.
This October, the City of West Sacramento Parks and Recreation and the West Sacramento Community Center present Arts in the Heart, a celebration of arts and diversity in West Sacramento. This is a free family event at the West Sacramento Community Center. We will be showcasing the cultural diversity and pride of our community. There will be a multicultural art exhibition inside Gallery 1075. New art will be on display on the West Sacramento Art Guild wall. See performances and dances in our Black Box Theater. We will also have informational booths and local vendors. You'll have plenty of activities to do inside and outside of the city's community center. We look forward to seeing you at Arts in the Heart, a celebration of arts and diversity in West Sacramento.
Great, so again, we'd like to invite all the commissioners to come on out, and at this time, we'd like to open up for any questions you may have.
Small question. Who was the who was the speaker on that video?
Can I guess?
Mike,
Is it the Black Box Theater manager?
It is.
I recognize his
Yeah,
voice.
Mike-
What's his
Mike
name?
Poe. Mike Poe.
Poe.
yeah.
Curious.
But Kara put that video together, so.
Very-
Yeah, and it's composed of footage that we've taken of the community, footage that we have taken of last year's Arts in the Heart event, and a few slices from other community center relevant events.
Well done.
Kara, will there be an opening reception for the art exhibit?
Yes, Julia. So the art reception itself will be part of the Arts in the Heart event day. So the reception, it will be more of a morning reception coinciding with the free public family event as well too. So we will have some light refreshments in the gallery as well too. Basically orange juice and little donut holes.
I remember the donut holes from last year, yeah.
Gotta come.
You have it done the whole.
Commissioners, any other questions or
It
comments?
looks beautiful. It looks like a lot of fun. I know people are
Thank
going to
you.
enjoy it. I'm going to try to come. I'm not certain that I can.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it's a team effort, and we've worked really hard on it year-round, and we hope to see you guys out if you can make it.
I'll check calendar and I can reach out by email to you.
Of course.
A question, how long does that show run in the gallery?
The exhibit will open this Wednesday, the afternoon of Wednesday, October 2nd, and will run through October 30th, so the day before Halloween. So it runs almost the entire month of October.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Appreciate all the work you're doing there, really. Okay, next on our agenda, consent agenda. Consideration of approval of the minutes for the June 24th, 2019 regular meeting and the June 27, 2019 special meeting.
Amendment to the June 24th. The motion under entry number 3, McMichael abstained. That was not a no vote, that was an abstention.
Thank you, I remember that.
Thank you, we'll correct that.
Any other questions or corrections to either of the meeting minutes?
I move they be accepted as corrected.
Can I have a second?
I don't think I can, I wasn't there.
Yeah, I missed one of the meetings too, but
Yeah, I wasn't there for either one.
I second.
Thank you. Moved by Vice Chair McMichael and seconded by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay? Motion carried. Thank you. Next on our agenda, this is so exciting. Consideration of river crossing judges panel selection of nominees for public art project located in West Sacramento and Sacramento Docks and Art Elements. Don Gensler, hello.
Hi, Commissioner Jordan. May I approach and drop
Please.
off something for you?
We've been looking forward to this for so long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I read what's under the agenda item? Or can he proceed first? Okay, thank you, sir.
Great, thank you. So what I just passed out to the commissioners was the brochure that the artist Joshua Sofair produced and sent out throughout the region. So I'm thrilled to be here today, almost 1 year after we presented this project to you initially, and certainly a little over 1 year since Joshua Sofair was chosen to be our National Endowment for the Arts, our town grant selected artist for the River Crossing project. Just a quick recap, this river crossing project was actually awarded in 2015 and was a culmination of efforts by both cities, Sacramento and West Sacramento, to build communication and to build really sisterhood between the two cities in a way that would help to also increase connectivity between the two cities with eventual possible streetcar design and also public art that was responsive to that streetcar design. So in fact, both cities have undertaken plans, master plans for their specific districts. In Sacramento, the downtown district, and in West Sacramento, the Washington district, for public art in and around those areas. And then as culmination of this scope of the grant, the culminating project was a public art project. Now, initially, when the two cities gathered together with the Crocker Art Museum and proposed this project, the idea was that they would erect some type of sculpture that might be on both sides of the river. And after a number of conversations, we eventually started to discuss the idea of perhaps it could be a temporary work that might involve other materials and other ways of engaging both communities so that we really could focus in on that idea of connectivity. Now that job's not that easily done, and quite frankly, it in many ways takes a leap of faith from all of you, all of your constituents and the people here in West Sacramento and all the folks in Sacramento and in the larger region. And I think we've taken that leap of faith, and ultimately a diverse panel met and selected Joshua Sofer as the artist to initiate and complete the project. Joshua is a UK-based artist and does work all around the world. His particular type of work that he does is really social practice. And what that means is that Joshua's artwork is both the things that he's creating, but it's also very much about the process that he goes through, that he brings people through to create those things. And so that's exactly what he proposed, and what the selection panel chose was his project titled River Crossing, I Want to Communicate with You. The main concept of this being that both sides were working together on a naming project to name what will be your public dock, soon to be constructed, and what is currently the old Sacramento public dock on the Sacramento side. Now, I think this is a unique opportunity, largely because Joshua really engaged people with a number of different community engagement strategies as a way to enter into the project. One of those is the brochure that I just handed out to you that has these kind of similar illustrations by a local illustrator and graphic designers that he assembled as part of his team. Another one is they did about 10 to 12 writing workshops around the region, not just here in West Sacramento and in Sacramento, but also in Auburn with indigenous communities and in other smaller areas around the outlying region. They also, as much as possible, came to a number of different events and tried to engage people to participate in the project. And actually, one of those events was a youth summit that we held in Sacramento. And at that time, Joshua was also able to get a number of youth involved as his ambassadors. So at these different events that they would go out to talk with people about the nomination process, he also had these youth ambassadors that worked with him. So again, the idea being all different folks could nominate people in 250 words or less to name the public dock. So as you can kind of see in the illustration, there's two opportunity areas, and they are very much right across from one another. And he sees them also between the Tower Bridge and the I Street Bridge, so it's a very specific corridor. Now, some of this I've gone through already, but what I do want to point out is that Joshua received, through that period from May 25th to July 10th, over 270 plus nominations, of which 252 were qualifying nominations. That means they met all the criteria that he had asked for. And that's a sizable number. I'm just going to throw out there. And it's a sizable number not just because, 600 people is a lot of people, but also because submitting somebody is more than just simply submitting a name. And I want to read you something that he produced. And I have to say, quite frankly, I'm really a spokesperson for the artist here, because this really is very much part of his project. He's asking two cities to kind of go on this journey with him to see what might be possible. This is not a normal thing. We don't normally survey and ask for stories when we're naming things. Oftentimes, those things are named by the highest bidder. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but Joshua has challenged us as a city, as two cities, to perhaps we could name based on people's submissions. So he wrote this thing. I'm trying to be very quick here, as quick as I can, but I think I'm just like to read his words. It's called Difficult Conversations. So the artist Joshua Sofer reflects on the nomination process for River Crossing, I Want to Communicate with You. River Crossing, I Want to Communicate with You invited people of Sacramento and West Sacramento to nominate someone to become the new name of the dock in their city. During the nomination process, we distributed thousands of brochures, set up stalls at public events, ran workshops, gave interviews, and tried our best to get people thinking about who they might nominate. It's a big task. To take time out to try to find the right 250 words, to put your heart on the line, to publicly proclaim the story of someone that is important to you next to many others is not easy. We had 672 original nominations. They were an amazing collection, and some tell the story of civic champions, others of family relationships. Some stories are one-offs, others stand for every woman, man, and child. And some stories tell of the great triumphs and tragedies of the nation, others of small acts of kindness. How do you judge between these? How do you select one story over another? Is a mother's love worth less than a hero's courage? Does a symbol of struggle mean more than an act of neighborly care? Of course, it is impossible. We can only ever enter into a dialogue, and that is really what River Crossing, I want to communicate with you, has been about. When the light box installations signal across the river to each other, they will signal between two cities, but amongst one people. They will represent not just the story of individuals whose names they spell out in maritime signals, but of our collective need to honor those who are most meaningful to us. So I think he puts it really well. I think it's important to understand everything that went into that process. And I'd like to share with you the nomination of West Sacramento was Etinesh. And Etinesh's name is actually Ethiopian. And she... Sorry, one moment. She, the meaning of her name is "You are my sister," and so I'd like to read you just part of this because it is quite long, and we've done some reading here. Growing up in West Sacramento, my river was my grandmother, Etinesh. As the story goes, my great-grandmother was an only child who carried the weight of loneliness. She had no one to grow up with and no one to hear her stories. So when her daughter was born, she named her Etinesh, which means "You are my sister." Etinesh was an announcement of friendship and a proclamation of the end of her loneliness. I'm going to continue. Etinesh went on to have 11 children who each had children of their own, and we all immigrated from Ethiopia to West Sacramento in the mid-90s. At first, it was difficult to adjust to a new country and a new culture and cope with the longing for our homeland. But every week, we went to visit our river and build a community full of laughter and joy. West Sacramento became a second home, and new memories began to flow. Etinesh was my river in the way that she carried my family through infinite journeys and provided a fluid space for communal storytelling. Etinesh lived in a small home in West Sacramento and passed away in 2016. She was a stream of hope for her mother and continues to provide solace wherever she flows. I wanted you also to hear that the River Crossing Judges panel selected Etinesh for the naming, and the judges were inspired by her unique story of immigration and the abundance of love and family and connection to the river. The judges were moved by how Etinesh Zeleki helped her large family integrate themselves into the West Sacramento community while maintaining their ties to Ethiopian heritage through gatherings and storytellings. The judges were drawn to the beauty and uniqueness of her story and believe everyone can see a part of themselves in Etinesh. Now, I did fail to remember that we did have a diverse panel of judges. Leticia Ordaz, this has been on our on the River Crossing website. Felicia Weatherly, Jess Milbourne, Maya Wallace, and Yeshia Yisrael. So these folks came together and they spent basically the good part of the day going over, they had already gone over, and they went over a number of stories, and ultimately determined that Etinesh Ziliki would be the correct name for West Sacramento, and Isabel S. Naranjo would be the correct name for Sacramento. Now, those are the names that they are recommending to you. I will be presenting the name at West Sacramento's commission meeting on October 14th, and I'll be presenting then at our council meeting for the naming process of a resolution to name the public dock for Sacramento on the 15th. And with your approval, we would also present to the West Sacramento Council on October 16th. Just to wrap up here, and this, of course, is the story for Isabel Naranjo. These stories also will be released along with the two names. The idea is that they would be released in a joint dual city press release on the 17th, and at that time 33 stories and names would be released on the website, and Joshua is putting together a small booklet with those stories to kind of commemorate with about 1,000 copies. And we're also looking into the possibility of going out into the Sacramento Bee or maybe some other publication. But certainly we will do some type of small booklet, and the names will be on the website as a way to commemorate all these different nominations that were sent in. Very quickly, just to show you this is also what I'm here today to ask of you, which is not necessarily, I would say, a typical thing that we would do with a commission, but Joshua felt very strongly, and the city of West Sacramento felt very strongly, that they would like you as the commission to help them make a decision in determining what would actually be spelled out by these light boxes. Now, coincidentally, Etinesh Ziliki is 14 characters, and You Are My Sister is 14 characters. So they actually are the same amount of light boxes. Notice that the light boxes, if you can see in your screen there, are made in maritime letters. So again, there's a bit of something that's going to unfold here. Someone's not going to immediately look at that and just know the name. The first time they see it, they may just think, oh, that's an interesting design. Or, what is that? It looks like it's on both sides of the river. The idea is that, again, this might spark discussion. This might spark more conversation. We will have some information down there by the Lightbox sculpture so that people can investigate further, both online and perhaps on something located there at the site. We're still determining that. But we'd like you as a commission to consider whether West Sacramento should say, You Are My Sister, or should say Etinesh Ziliki. Before I open this up for your conversation, your questions and conversation, I'd like to point out a couple things. The other side, the Sacramento side, will say Isabel S. Naranjo. Now, if the West Sacramento side says You Are My Sister, it's that kind of, the idea is that it's a conversation, so that the Sacramento side is saying a name, and the West Sacramento side is making this gesture and saying, You Are My Sister. Now, technically, Etinesh means You Are My Sister in Ethiopian. So you also could choose to actually have the name Etinesh Ziliki on one side, and then the Sacramento side would say Isabel S. Naranjo. And then again, they would be that conversation. Lastly, if you were to choose You Are My Sister, we would also need to discuss kind of what the name would be technically, because we would actually be changing the name of the dock. Now, as long as that's all clear as mud, I think I'm going to conclude this. You have two options here. Thank you very much, Katie. Two options so you can kind of see what that would look like. Again, people will be encouraged to go to the website and spell the name out with those maritime letters. Right now, you can do that actually on the website. And then we may build another thing down at each side of the river. We're still trying to work some of this out where people could actually read it on site as well. But this gives you a good sense of what that might look like. That's what it would look like at night. And I think it's quite a beautiful gesture to think of that on the West Sacramento side, and then this on the Sacramento side. So this kind of conversation in light between the two cities. And with that, we'd like you to think about how we might recommend this to your West Sacramento City Council. Tracy, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Commission. So we are requesting feedback from Commission to make a recommendation on the preferred name for the dock, as well as the light box installation that will be taken to City Council later in October. As mentioned, because of the name, we have an opportunity to do something a little bit different than just name, surname in West Sacramento, if that's what is recommended by the Commission. One of the items that I discussed with Katie Jacobson prior to her going on vacation was that we need to make sure that if we are going to choose an alternate way of representing Etinesh, that at least one of the features, the light box installation or the dock, need to have her full name on one of those features. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. I took the liberty of coming up with some options just based on discussions I've had with folks internally about Etinesh's name and how it might be represented. So for the light box installation, we really have two options: the full name, surname, Etinesh Saliki, or You Are My Sister. But the dock name options might be a little more varied. So, and that just, this is just to kind of get some ideas put out there, but we would love to get feedback from the Commission on how we might name it.
Thank you both. I find this all very moving. Commissioners, time for questions, thoughts,
I have a
comments? Am I the
question.
only one who's teary over all
No.
this? Okay.
Have you reached out to the granddaughter, Miss Bekele?
Yes.
And what does she think?
Well, she's very moved that her grandmother was chosen, of course. She is very much open with you all making a decision on what you think would be best for the
On whether to use the
city.
first name or the full name?
Yes. Yeah, well, whether it would be Etinesh Zaliki or You Are My Sister. So I think she is fine with either in terms of the light box, because she also realizes that her grandmother's name has been chosen, and it would be part of your, it would be a named facility of West Sacramento after that, just as the Sacramento side would be a named facility.
And just another quick point is that the light box installation is considered a temporary art installation, even though it may last for a fairly long period of time. Just something to think about with the naming process.
Yes, Vice Commissioner.
I have two comments. Immigrants have a history of having their names anglicized or Americanized. And so since this project said to honor some unique individual, I would like this woman's name to remain in the original and not to be translated, but to have the name of this unique immigrant. That being said, I also have a question about her profile. While it is beautiful in making Etinesh an archetype, I don't get anything personal about her like I do with Isabel. So if it's at all possible to have a couple of phrases, she liked to paint, she liked to, whatever, something that gives me more of her face other than just the face of the river. I think it's beautiful as an art type, but I thought this whole project was to put that person in front of us all so we could honor that person as uniquely representing. So you already know my vote would be the full name, Etanish Zaleki, for that light box in order to put that person forward.
Thank you. May I ask a question, Director McMichael? So the naming of the...
Michael.
Oh, Michael. Oh, sorry, Michael, sorry.
My cousin.
Thank you. The naming of the dock is not temporary, or is?
It is not,
It
so
is
that
not.
will live on.
That will live on. The light box will live as long as it can live,
Correct.
but the dock will retain that name.
So if I could add, so both light box structures are being constructed by a local sign company and general contractor. They actually are being made with very durable materials and will connect. They've been, on the West Sacramento side, they're connecting directly into the construction drawing plans there. But because we did present this as a temporary project, and initially that's what we were thinking, and that's what Joshua was thinking, it just happened that as the project evolved, he was able to spend the funds necessary to actually construct this light box sculpture with durable materials. So it could last longer, like any piece of public art that we might maintain and do things to, but initially the idea was that both sculptures would be in place for 6 months.
And I do remember when he put the proposal together, he had been working with a local manufacturer with the understanding that they were prepared to maintain it as needed, to give it as long a life as possible. I remember that.
For the time that it's there, we'll be entering into agreement with them as well on that. And so, yeah, I just wanted you to understand that it happened that we are using durable materials that would be able to last, but ultimately, the project was initially focused as a temporary project.
Commissioner Clower?
Yeah, thank you. The dock name, is that still up for grabs, or is that going to be one of these options?
The dock will be named after Etinesh Zaliki, but it can be named in a slightly different form, should the commission recommend and the council approve that different format.
I love her first name. I think it's lyrical. I think it speaks to the mission of this project. And I like that it's reaching out to Sacramento. And so what I would like to see is that her full name be, the dock be named her full name with a plaque explaining all of this, and that the signs, that's my recommendation.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
I have a question. McMichael, on page 3 of the river crossing panel selection, just because I don't know jargon, what is a CIP?
Yeah, capital improvement project, yes.
And the $200,000 transfer, that was previously approved and everybody knows about it. Refresh my aging memory.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
Page 3, river crossing panel selection.
Thank you.
Commissioner McMichael referring to the budget
Right.
section?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So this funding actually dates back a few years because it's been in process for some time.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
and not so much questions, just comments. How many respondents did you get from West Sac? Have any idea? Out of the 652?
The exact number of respondents from
Third
West
of
Sac?
them, 50%?
I'm not sure. I think it was fairly fairly even, but some were also from the larger region. Like I said, there were some in Auburn and some areas outside as well.
I went to the workshop they had here, and it was fascinating that both applications responded to the suggestions they made in the workshop. They had an author who made recommendations, and the people in the workshop had a chance to write a mythical application. And then he critiqued it, and then, now write your real one. And so the people had a chance to write what they were really going to do, or submit, and then he critiqued that. It was time well spent, I think. It was a good part of the process, I thought. So I shared this with some people I know in Sacramento, and I'm discovering I gave them the wrong information. But, so now we're talking about three different things. What's on the light box, what's on the dock, and the approval of the name on the dock in Sacramento. Yes? No?
You are not approving the name in Sacramento.
Okay, all
We're just focused on the West Sacramento.
Okay. One of the comments they made, which I think I got an answer here, but, quote, "So West Sac is opening its arms to Sacramento and saying, 'You are my sister,' potentially,
I love it.
but Sacramento is not responding." Oh, wait, I'm just telling you, so if I'm going up the river on my boat and I see these maritime signs, which I have no idea what they mean, I'm going to Google what they mean, and the West Sac side is going to say, "You are my sister," and the Sacramento side's going to go, So, and we were talking about communicate, but the answer is that's not true. Now, there's actually a name potentially on the Sacramento side. So there is the potential that West Sac says, "You are my sister," and the other doc says, "Yeah, my last name is Naranjo, and my first name is Isabel, nice to meet you." That's the communication part of the art. Am I sort of filling in the blanks, sort of, okay?
That's it exactly, that the fact that the signs are back and forth.
Yeah, there's a relationship between the two, which is what the people I talked to were hoping would happen, that there would in fact be a relationship between the two, because if there wasn't, it was like,
Yeah,
okay,
and
so-
they actually, just to show you here, if I can get back, they actually are, and this worked out, and you guys can't imagine how complicated it was to make this happen. You can't barely see this here, but they actually are right across from one another.
Yeah.
And we must have gone through 10 different locations on the Sacramento side, because it also happens to be, Old Sacramento, and there's a lot of complications there. And then considering other locations on the West Sacramento side, but it really came together so they are directly across from one another. But Commissioner, I share your thoughts in terms of "you are my sister," because there's one making a gesture, but I would say that another interpretation of that could certainly be that both cities are communicating with one another in terms of the light boxes, and that it's very much about that, and it's very much about that gesture, and of course in friendship somebody has to kind of open their
well,
arms.
and that it seems would be consistent with the vision of the artist, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think that, there certainly is some of that here. I mean, we can't lose sight also of the fact that there's a kind of poetic aspect to this. It doesn't fall into what our kind of normal naming procedures are, and part of that is a little bit of a leap of faith to say, hey, let's try this as two cities. And I think that's what the artist has asked us. Like I kind of said maybe clunkily at the beginning, we could have chosen to do a sculpture, and certainly I'm one to be a proponent for sculptures and public art. But I think that the panel distinctly liked this idea that part of the art, a big part of the art, is this sharing of stories back and forth.
My first thought was, my first fear was, I remember I got off the plane in Chicago and there was a big sign, "Mayor welcomes you." And I was thinking, oh gosh, I hope we're not going to do that. So we're not. We're not. Okay, so I'm encouraged, so, right.
Well, if I alone was making the decision, I love "You Are My Sister" on the sign and the dock named Etinesh Zaliki Dock. So we meet both. That's my preference.
So
I like the reaching out, "You are my sister." When I tell someone I love them, I don't need them to give it back to me, so I don't see that as a hurdle. Telling Sacramento they're our sister, we're telling the world they're our sister. However, it is not my decision to make, so.
Make a motion.
Director Michael, what are we going for? Are we moving to do something, adopt something?
Ideally, we'd have consensus on a recommendation for the art installation piece, and then we'd have consensus from this commission on a recommended name for the dock.
We care too much to easily have consensus. Yes, Julia.
Well, since Etinesh means "you are my sister," I don't see any point in translating that into English. I think the story will be more resonant by having the name of our individual, but that's my feeling.
Commissioner Garcia.
I guess I'm going to piggyback on both of your opinions, but I do like, the fact of using her name. I think it just puts it more out there. I wish there was a way where we could, put like in parentheses.
You are my sister.
Yeah, but
A lot of flags.
That's a lot. Yeah, so it's just too much.
I actually did ask the artist that before I came tonight. I said, can we just put, and he said, yeah, what if we, it just continue to increase project cost, and then it may look awkward because there'd be so many more letters.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's a maritime sign for parentheses.
No, I'm not sure either. But I will say to Commissioner McMichael's point, I actually hadn't thought about that, but there is some history for immigration, people having to change their name in some way. So that's a very interesting point. And Etinesh does mean "you are my sister," so, we will have, however you all decide to recommend, it is certain, we will have a small plaque that explains it on the site. We've gone some back and forth on this, and we knew we were going to have information on the website, but I think we've determined, as with a lot of contemporary art, sometimes you want to know some of this backstory, and so we will have some information there on site that says "you are my sister" as well, just so you do know that.
And on that plaque or anywhere, is there a picture of this woman?
So the picture probably we won't do on the site, just knowing how kind of the best way to prepare a plaque and durable materials and things like that. But absolutely on the website, there will be a picture, and we are also also in the booklet, which we're going to produce 1,000 copies, and then we'll see where that goes. And then also, I did want to tell you, one thing I forgot was that we will be doing an exhibition. We're still trying to determine the exact location. We do know we want to do, the thought has been to do an exhibition here in West Sacramento City Hall and one in Sacramento City Hall. And have literally the 33 stories and photographs of these people up. For people to celebrate and also read. And it'll also be a little bit of an experiment. I know it's not that often we have 33 stories for people to read in an art exhibition, but we're gonna give that a shot too. So yes, there will be a couple different formats where we will have a photograph of both the two folks nominated, and also the other 31 people that were nominated as well. We'll have photographs of them as well.
Any other questions or discussion before we ask for a motion? I would just also like to say that I know a high school kid who submitted her grandmother, and the response she received telling her that her grandmother hadn't been chosen, but commenting on how beautiful the story was, and I think she was one of the 33 finalists, was so moving to this child because she's 17, that I had a deeper respect for the whole project after talking to this teenager about how much it meant to her to even submit it and then to receive that feedback. So thank you to
Thank you for
Joshua
that.
and all for that.
Yeah, and I have heard that kind of conversation a lot, and that's very moving to hear that, and I think and Joshua would be moved to hear that, I'll make sure to express that to him. But that's what I think what a lot of this has been about.
Yes.
Yes, the artist is a sweetheart. We picked a good artist, a great artist for this. I would want to make a motion at this time that the maritime flags, that a recommendation be made to the West Sacramento City Council that the maritime flags and the naming of the dock reflect the full name of Etinesh Zelecki in her honor.
So we have a motion, and I'm looking for a second on that.
I second.
Moved by Vice Chair McMichael and seconded by Commissioner Garcia. Do we need a roll call vote, or, okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? 2. Is it majority? 3-2? Okay. Motion carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much, and thanks for taking the time and such a thoughtful discussion. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We love Joshua.
Thank you. Yes, we do.
I'll let him know.
Yes, thank you. I didn't even know the dock existed on the old Sacramento side until he came down to make his presentation, and he walked around and felt that connection. Then I had to go down to see the dock even existed. Wonderful guy. All right, this takes us to Director's Report. Director Michael, not McMichael.
Thank you. Several things to report. First, on September 18th, the City Council did approve our CIP biannual budget. That included a number of projects, some of which you're familiar with. They're already under construction. The docks project, which started construction today, I'll speak on that a little bit more in a minute. Barge Canal Trail improvements, Memorial Park improvements. We also have our match funding for the Southport Levee Trailhead facility. We will be moving forward with that project shortly. We also received funding to make some improvements in Elkhorn Park to the picnic areas to make them ADA compliant. Perimeter trail improvements at Summerfield Park, and fencing around the restrooms at Broderick Boat Ramp, and multiple rec center and community center / boathouse facility improvements like refurbishing of the tennis courts. We're exploring adding some lighting to the tennis courts so that we can have evening play, painting at the community center, and adding a storage facility at Bridgeway Lake. So just a number of projects that we'll be working really hard to implement over the next 2 years. We're already almost halfway into the first fiscal year, so we're really excited about that. I also wanted to let you know, on August 5th, we submitted 3 applications for the Prop 68 grant program, their statewide park and community revitalization program. There are a number of programs funded with Prop 68 funds, so this is just one grant program. There will be many more that we'll be applying for, but we submitted 3 applications. One for the public plaza in the Bridge District, so that involved acquisition of the land, which is a requirement of the specific plan, and construction of the plaza improvements. That has a significant art component to it. We don't know exactly what that is, but art is eligible under this program, so in all 3 projects, we've added art elements and funding. The second project is an expansion and renovation of Westacre Park. That the school district's interested in giving the city the property that has the warehouse buildings on it to be used as an expansion of the park, and so we submitted an application for that. And then we also have a new park development site that we're calling the Fallbrook Campus, the original Westmore Oaks site that will be home to Westmore Oaks again, but using the playfields as a new neighborhood park opportunity. They're all really strong projects for different reasons. They'll score very differently for different reasons, but we're looking forward to hopefully hearing back from the state early next year. And we'll have more information on those projects as we go through the process. So I want to thank everybody who participated in our community meetings. We had a very robust community engagement effort, and it was, I think, a very successful and rewarding process to go through. It was great to connect with so many residents and get information that will help inform a lot of other projects as well. So thanks to those of you who came out. We also had an event last week that I was not able to attend. I'm not sure if any of you were able to at the Indian Heritage Center site. They had on-site tours last Thursday from approximately 1 to 3 p.m. Were any of you able to go out there and visit the site? I have some brochures that were distributed at the site if you're interested in looking at them, but it's exciting to have that project move forward. And based on the schedule that they were sharing last week, they have about a 6-month window for project scoping and phasing. They'll be selecting a design firm and have allocated another 6 months for that. Then about 24 months to actually complete the design work. Actually, 48 months to get us to a point where we might be ready for construction on site.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very exciting project. And hopefully we'll continue to get more information that we can share with this commission. Then we've got multiple projects underway. As I mentioned, the docks project started construction today, depending on whether it will take several months to complete. Heritage Oaks Park, the ropes course is now underway. If you've driven by the site, you can see some of the platforms and ropes in the trees. We're concurrently reviewing the balance of the site plans for the Clutterwald improvements, which will include on-site parking, a building that will house public restrooms, and their office and concessions. There'll be a play area, some pathways, and some outdoor seating. So really exciting to have that moving forward, and their hopes are to have a soft opening by the end of the year or very early next year.
Oh, wow.
It's a very quick turnaround. We have the Barge Canal Access Area Trail improvements, almost complete, a 16-foot wide multi-use trail spanning all the way from Jefferson Boulevard to almost the Palmadesi Bridge, Lake Washington Boulevard. The trail includes 2 seating areas, and and we'll have some lighting components as well. And there are artifacts and replicas of features of the original Jefferson Bridge and the lock facility that will be incorporated into the seating area elements. So it's going to be a beautiful project. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight that our next meeting will be December 16th. And it has been mentioned to me multiple times that it might be nice to have more frequent commission meetings. So it doesn't take much to do that. It just takes the commission action to approve a schedule that includes more frequent meetings. So if there's support to continue exploring that, at the December meeting, we can present 2 options for your schedule. One that would continue with the meetings as currently scheduled, the other that would have bi-monthly meetings.
Thank you for that. I personally would like to have bi-monthly meetings to keep up so much that I don't want to lose traction with our ideas and keeping up with what's happening. Commissioners, any thoughts on that?
We used to have more meetings way back when, and it was a staffing issue. The reason that we cut them back to pretty much when there were action items.
So I think we would like to see that as an option in December.
And, yeah, I agree. I think too, especially with a lot of the development of parks and facilities you just talked about, so much of it is cultural or historic or includes art. It's almost, my sympathies, but it's almost like the Parks and Rec Commission agenda and this agenda overlaps. It's okay, but it just does, and that requires us, I think, to really look at having more meetings because of that, I think.
I'm imagining that our hope is that you need to hear from us much more often, right? That's what we want. Yes, Julia.
Ms. Michael, can you tell me what the plaza is, the plaza project?
Yes, the public plaza is, it's a a hardscape plaza that, the way it's currently designed with the feedback we received from the community, is located on the waterfront, north of the barn, kind of centrally located in the Bridge District. It connects users from the existing sidewalk to the riverfront, and it's kind of a Y-shaped parcel that lends itself to some really interesting activities being able to take place on the riverside. So the Y opens up at the river end of the property. And the way that it's designed now, it has a water element that can be programmable. And it's sort of modeled a little bit after Jameson Square in Portland. So if you've never seen Jameson Square, you can Google it. It's a very beautiful water feature that has stacked stones that can, when the water's turned off, double as seating. It could double as performance space. And it's just a beautiful place creates a beautiful space to be in. There are landscape elements, some iconic elements that could be part of the art component or could just be an architectural component to create a sense of place. And then we have budgeted for the water feature to use recycled water so that it can be used year-round. And we've also identified a small restroom facility that would house all of the mechanical equipment required for the recycled water component. And that restroom could be designed to be open, during performances or during regular park hours. We've got some flexibility with it, but we did hear from the community that it would be really nice to have a restroom somewhere along the waterfront for folks when they can't always use the one at Drake's.
How exciting.
When you say north, is this a path that connects Front Street to the riverfront pathway or no? So there's isn't that called Front Street, or am I imagining that? River Street? What street is Drake's on, front of Drake's?
I should know that. I'm going to
Is it
look right now.
riverfront? And then there's
To the river.
then there's the trail, and so it connects those two. Because right
Yes.
now, the only way to get from one side to the other is on the ends, but this
So
is
it will
through.
connect the river walk trail, riverfront trail.
Thank you.
To the street,
Thank
basically.
you. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, great. And when do we expect that?
Well, we're hoping to hear in early 2020.
Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
I did go, as I mentioned, the Parks and Rec Commission where Aaron made the presentation on the Prop 68. And really, the public involvement was terrific, I thought. That whole, talk to the people in town. What a concept, huh? And, you did a lot, and that was really good. And so I enjoyed the input. I think we were talking where one of the parks had pickleball, and my eyebrows went up, what? And then I just read an advertisement that said, fastest growing sport in the United States is pickleball. I go, what? I'm still at the what stage, but it came from the public. That was their ideas. That's, so it was good. You mentioned the trail on the Barge Canal was a multi-use trail. You know where I'm going.
I do.
Is it really a multi-use trail, or is it sort of a kind of a multi-use trail?
It's a mostly multi-use trail. As of right now, we still, have challenges with equestrian use there because it is considered part of the levee, the flood protection system.
Oh, that's right, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We get back to that question again, huh, okay. All right.
We're still working on that.
No, I know, I appreciate that, but I had to ask the question.
Yes.
Thank you, okay.
I'd like to request that someone invite Mr. Schatzel to play pickleball. Okay.
And I have one other item, just a heads up. As I mentioned, there are a lot of Prop 68 funded programs. As we went through the community engagement process for the 3 applications we submitted, we did get a lot of questions about Bright Park and why Bright Park wasn't included, and it wasn't included because it wasn't eligible for a number of reasons. It just didn't meet the median income household requirements, and it was in an area that's not considered park poor because we have a very large park in that area. But we are pursuing other grant opportunities. We have interest from partners that would like to explore ways to continue to implement the Bright Park Master Plan in phases The layout of the park right now, as it stands, makes future phases a little challenging without impacting programming. So you can't get, for example, one new use without taking away potentially another use. Well, we completed the master plan several years ago, so we would like to have another community engagement process to check in and make sure that the Bright Park master plan, as it is now, is still relevant, see if there are any refinements that we might make, and we might suggest some slight shifts in location of some program space that would help us to implement improvements easier in phases. So for example, a slight switch might be right in the middle of the park is an all-weather soccer field with lighting. So you can play year-round with minimal impacts to the adjacent residential because it's shifted more internal into the park. But you can't get that without impacting the softball fields. So if we made some adjustments to the new softball complex and where the all-weather soccer field is going, just kind of flipped one of the fields, we might actually be able to move forward and improve those independent program features separately. So we would like to have some community outreach work coming up in the next couple of months to visit some of those refinements to see if the community is supportive, and then that would help us to go after additional grant funding, maybe in different ways.
I would like to thank you for thinking that way, because I think when you settle on a plan, there has to be room to grow and change it, especially now that you know more what your use is, too. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yes, and I put on at your seats a brochure that I just received today. It is from the California Arts Council that announces a variety of different grant programs for the arts communities in different categories. I don't have much information on these yet, but I wanted to share this with you. Encourage you to take a look at some of these programs, and if you have any ideas, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can coordinate with our staff to see if any are a good fit for us here for some of the things that we'd like to do.
There's also a grant coming open from the YOLO Foundation. I'll find that and send it to
Okay.
you, that we need to look at.
And that concludes
That's
my
it?
director's report. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, or may I have a motion to adjourn? And a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Schatzel, seconded by Vice Chair McMichael, and all in favor to adjourn? Aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Thank you, we're adjourned, thank you.